Jenny from Circa Paleo credits you for bringing her into the Renaissance circuit
Right?
way back when.
That's another Kerrville story, actually.
Really?
Yeah, and it wasn't just me, but I had something to do with it. I was at Kerrville one year, and Owl and Thomas were there. Owl's
Nwendell.
Thomas Nwendell, yeah. It's one of the few times Thomas went to Kerrville. And they say to me, you need to come to the staff kitchen tonight, because there's a group playing there that you're going to want to play with, you're going to enjoy playing with. And so I go, and it's Mark and Jen. I get there, and yeah, they're playing all these Middle Eastern and Eastern European and things like that. These great Slavic tunes and all the funny with the Bulgarian rhythms and all that. And I'm hanging on curves and having a good time. And afterwards, I write down Jeff Baldwin's name on a piece of paper and number on a piece of paper. And I said, give me 2 weeks, then call this guy and tell him that you're the people I was talking about. Then I called Jeff and said, these people are going to call you in a week or two, and it's a couple young kids, and trust me, you're going to like them. You're going to really like them. And they did, and he hired them. It's one of the few times I've told a director, look, you really need to hire these people. And as I expected, everybody loved them. They were perfect for the setting, and then they spawned off into a couple different groups. Jenny became Circa Paleo. They started out, actually the first name they went under was E Serenis, but I think that was, somebody else had that name already or something. So then, what was that, the other name? I Musiki or something like that.
Musiki.
Yeah. And then, they also helped introduce the louder form of amplification at festivals. This festival that we're at right now, I think, the Pennsylvania show, is the only one that I've been to anyway that puts that much care. It's like they decide, okay, if we're going to use sound equipment, then let's hire a professional sound equipment guy. That, like, Roger is his name, and he really understands. He does arena stuff. He does all kinds of different festivals. I'll be singing, I've been really loud and boisterous, and then I'll sing a really sweet song. Yeah. So you have to have somebody up there sliding up that dial a little bit, and then as soon as I hit something big, they have to pull it back down.
Right.
And I'll switch from bass to guitar, but still use the same transmitter. And that's my guitar. Neither one of them do I have control over the volume of. The bass is quieter than the guitar. So somebody up there has to recognize, oh, he's switching over to guitar.
All right, so they can actually monitor it and then...
Yeah, which is, again, a lot of festivals, they might have good equipment, but none of them that I've been to have the small army of stage managers that they have here and the professional sound people who sit there and know how to do that part of it.
I'm sitting in the audience and I've got a recorder going and somebody else is doing the mixing.
Yeah.
You know.
When we started, even Doug over there, he didn't have a microphone. He had to shout.
Right.
And it's hard work, but we know we learned to do it. Right. And then they started introducing the amplification, and I can't remember which director said it, but I really strongly believe in that. I prefer the term sound reinforcement to amplification, because I think the goal for most settings is for somebody near the back of the audience or at the back of the audience to be able to hear fine, but to not know it's amplified.
Yeah.
I'd rather them go, wow, I can hear them so well. Are they amplified?
I wonder how they did that.
Yeah. And that's to me, that is the magic. One of using sound equipment correctly.
Yeah, and if you can separate the different acts that are louder and put them in different areas, that helps a lot.
Yeah. And
the Pennsylvania Fair is wonderful like that because you've got such up and down and some kind of sequestering.
We do a show. This year's it's not Demetrius and Friends, but I go to it. It's a Demetrius show over at that chess gazebo.
Yeah,
and I think Volgamut and Kudu are playing at the same time, but we can't hear them. There's enough buildings between us.
Yeah. And, the one thing I wish they would do with that damn plate breaking, that's just so maddening. You do a beautiful little song.
Not the balloons popping?
I can deal with the balloons, but just the smashing of the glass.
I think that's a brilliant game, though. I mean, it may be in a tough spot.
Yeah.
But the whole concept of it's you buy it, you break it.
You break it. It's a
great gig. Yeah. I haven't mentioned this guy very much, but he's great fun to sing with.
You're talking about Doug.
Yeah,
who's sitting over there with his headphones on, so he can't hear us.
Oh, he probably hears. But anyway, he's just a joy to play with and sing with, because we do duets sometimes that are super sweet.
Yeah.
And then we'll do a really funny song that Don Juan will help interpret.
Of course.
And
Ferdinand's
one of them. And we do Oh That Don Juan, which is Oh That Clancy. They claim that the Irish stole it from the Spaniards. And he brings a joy. He started as a singer. He was in a group called the Jongleurs.
Right, I remember he said that.
And they were a madrigal group. Bodge was part of that group too.
Yeah.
And they brought that same sense of joy to the singing. They would be singing in a foreign language, but then their movements would be as though it was in English, like if they were, the term cognate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, they might be in Italian and they might say something like, something gento or something. So when they get to the toe, they point at their feet. And so it's just like, it was goofy.
Yeah.
But still the music was great.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's, again, one of the magic things is to be able to not take yourself too seriously.
Right, but present a professional, well-polished production.
Right. So,
yeah, it's joyful. It's not pretentious. It's not you're not in competition with each other. You're there to amplify each other. Whenever the king walks through, you say, "Hello, Your Majesty," and
right.
you relate to the
Exactly.
audience as well as the performers, the other musicians.
And one of the things about me being able to play with so many different people is, I think, it helps solidify the illusion that we are a village.
It surely does, now that you mention it.
Is because it's not just me over there doing my song and then leaving.
Right.
And stuff. And then it's not just Miguel working with Don Juan. It's all of a sudden Miguel and Jim are singing together, and then Jim is playing with the harper, and then Miguel plays the Bladivarius with Volgamute.
In the town of Ballybay, a lassie she was dwelling. I knew her very well from the stories she was telling. Her father ran a still, he was a good distiller, and when she went to drink, why, an ocean wouldn't fill her. With a ring-a-ding-a-da, ring-a-ding-a-daddy-o, ring-a-ding-a-da, whack for the daddy-o.
She said she wouldn't dance until she had her wellies on, but when she had them on, what she'd dance as well as anyone. She wouldn't go to bed until she got her shimmy on, but when she got it on, why'd she go to bed with anyone? A ring-a-ding-a-da, a ring-a-ding-a-daddy-o, a ring-a-ding-a-da, whack for the daddy-o.
She had a wooden leg, it was hollow in the middle. She tied it with a string and she played it like a fiddle. She fiddled in the hall, she fiddled in the alleyway. She didn't care at all, 'cause she had to fiddle anyway.
A ring-a-ding-a-da, a ring-a-ding-a-daddy-o, a ring-a-ding-a-da, whack for the daddy-o. She courted day and night every Tom, Dick and Harry. She'd love us by the score and she swore she'd never marry. Then she fell in love with a fellow with a stammer. He tried to run away, so she hit him with a hammer. Well, a ring-a-ding-a-da, a ring-a-ding-a-daddy-o, a ring-a-ding-a-da, whack for the daddy-o. She led a simple life, kept a cabin and went boating. She terrorized her man till he up and died right sudden. And when he passed away, she was feeling kinda sorry. She wrote him in a bag and she threw him in the quarry. With a ring-a-ding-a-da, a ring-a-ding-a-daddy-o, a ring-a-ding-a-da, whack for the daddy-o, a ring-a-ding-a-da, a ring-a-ding-a-daddy-o, a ring-a-ding-a-da, whack for the daddy-o.
I love the work I do, and I love the people I work with, and like I said, the people I work for, which is not always the owners. I think the people I work for are the patrons. But owners have to make decisions, and I don't always agree with their decisions.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be the one making those decisions, so I let them do that, and I'll do what I do. I'm an ex-military guy. One of the things I did learn from the military is chain of command. And that is, if I have a problem, I don't go talk to the owner. I talk to my director.
Okay.
And if the director thinks it rises to the level of talking to the owner, or in most festivals, there's a general manager between the director and the owner. So they'll take it to the general manager. If the general manager thinks it rises to the level of going to the owner, then they go to the owner. But it's not my job to go talk to an owner.
Well, that's part of the reason you have such a sterling reputation. You know, you're not a bully. You're not a cantankerous person at all. But you're a professional.
I try.
Yeah.
And it's also, I have finally learned in my old age, sonny, that it really doesn't help to be cantankerous. I remember one year at King Richard's Fair, which is now Bristol. It was what we called it the year of the baby juggler. They hired like 30 jugglers, and there were a couple of those people could do jaw-droppingly astounding stuff with manipulating objects in the air. But they had no show. They had no stage personality to say, and they didn't come back because even though they were phenomenal, technically, they didn't communicate to the audience. Whereas another person had some decent skills and okay tricks, but boy were they funny. And boy did they twinkle and sparkle and really took it right to the audience. Yeah. And they're still working. Yeah. And their skills have hopefully developed over the years too.
Yeah, one would hope.
But they are more phenomenal. And it's like one of the things I say to people is like, as a director, as a music director, if I have to choose between somebody who we call paper trained, somebody who reads music, and somebody who does it entirely by ear, I'll take the person who does it by ear if I have to choose one or the other, because they listen. Yeah. And they listen and respond. Whereas the ideal is somebody who can do both. Right. But if I have to choose one.
That's what it's interesting you say it, because Bob said the same thing, that the most important thing to play with cantiga is that you can listen. Yeah. And once you can listen and find your place, you have to have skills to be able to add to it, but to be able to bring your skills in with other people is what makes a performance.
Yeah. Cantiga's had many, many good violinists over the years, but we talked about earlier, the lineup that I always thought was the best was when Max, Sick, and Bob were on stage, because in their own right, they could blow anybody out of the water if they wanted to, but they would listen to each other and respond and add, rather than, it wasn't a listen to me kind of a thing. It was a, how can I make this better? Yeah. And there was that whole better than this.
The focus on this as opposed to what they were contributing.
And when we were talking about the jugglers and the Arsène is that perfect combination of technical brilliance and fabulous stage persona. Arsène Dupin, Dupin, I think his real name is like Dupin Didier, but he goes as Arsène Dupin or Arsène from Paris. And he does TRF. He did King Richard's. Might still do
that's a secret hope that I have, that I can go back to TRF again sometime.
Yeah, you can't see that in a weekend.
Place. Oh my God. I got a hat. So it's my memory of TRF. Yeah, it was just, Diane Lynn was performing there with you. Van Arnhem, Victoria Van Arnhem.
Oh, she
did Dulcimer with you.
Right, she was only there that one
weekend that I happened to be there.
Yeah. That's right. We used one of those in that thumb drive.
A love song in Spanish. A la una yo nací, a las dos me engrandecí. A la una yo nací, a las dos me engrandecí, a las tres, oh mi amante, a las cuatro me casé, a las tres, oh mi amante, a las cuatro me casé. Anzi, ver tu hermosura Dime niña, ¿dónde vienes? Yo te quiero conocer. Dime niña, ¿dónde vienes? Yo te quiero conocer. Si tú no tienes amante, yo dejaré de aprender. Si tú no tienes amante, yo dejaré de aprender. Ansi ver tu hermosura. Ansi ver tu hermosura. Are you ready? A la una yo nací, a las dos me engrandecí. A la una yo nací, a las dos me engrandecí. A las tres, oh mi amante, a las cuatro me casé. A las tres, oh mi amante, a las cuatro me casé. Ansi ver tu hermosura. Ansi ver tu hermosura. Ansi ver tu hermosura.
In Tampa this year, the 5 weeks that we actually got to do, I started memorizing some new songs, were new to me. Mary Mac is one of them. Night that Patty Murphy died. Songs that people have been saying, you really need to learn this song.
Yeah, yeah.
And a couple of more obscure older songs. But 3 of them are really, they've got a lot of words. I've seen few people do this, and it's also different chords. It's like, it's just a different song in many ways. Same melody, same basic thing, but one of the reasons I hadn't learned it so far is I told myself I'm not going to learn the version everyone else on the circuit is doing. I'm going to do the whole song. And so I had all these songs memorized, and then quarantine hit,
Yeah.
and I didn't do them for 6 months, and I get here, and through the course of the weekend I got 3 or 4 of them mostly memorized again, because Thomas doesn't know them yet, so I did make him do one of them, but I would go sit, like I'd sit in with Mary Kate
Yeah.
at her 4:30 show, but I'm done at a little bit before 4 with the Demetrius and friends, so I would just go up to where she plays and sit there waiting for her and go over the songs.
Do you love an apple? Do you love a pear? Do you love a laddie with curly brown hair? Still I love him. him, I can't deny him. I'll be with him wherever he goes. When I was single, I wore a black shawl, but now that I'm married, I wear bugger all. Still, I love him, I can't deny him. I'll be with him wherever he goes. He stood at the corner, a fag in his mouth, 2 hands in his pockets, he whistled me out. Still, I love him, I can't deny him. I'll be with him wherever he goes. He works at the pier for 9 bob a week. Come Saturday night, he comes rolling home drunk. Still, I love him, I can't deny him. I'll be with him wherever he goes. Before I got married, I'd sport and I'd play, but now the cradle, it gets in my way. Still, I love him, I can't deny him. I'll be with him wherever he goes. Do you love an apple? Do you love a pear? Do you love a laddie with curly brown hair? Still, I love him, I can't deny him. I'll be with him wherever he goes.
There's a style of song that I still have never mastered, and it's what I call a list song. It's like, what's the Irish Rover? We spun 9 times around, and
Oh,
the
right,
barrel
right,
goes
right.
round. It's a list. It's like there's 3,000 barrels of that,
Right,
2,000 barrels of
right,
that, 5,000 barrels.
Yeah.
My brain, there is a story within that,
Yeah.
but my brain doesn't work well with that.
Watch, Mary Kate did a,
Yeah.
she did a song at the pub sing up at the pirate ship. The
Oh.
Ratlin Flea,
Oh, the Rattling Bog.
Ratlin Bug.
She did that.
That's another list song, isn't it?
Yes, but there's a progression in that one.
Okay.
Because it's like there's a hole in the bog, and
Right.
there's a tree in the hole.
Right.
There's a limb on the tree. There's
Okay,
a branch
so
on the
there's a
limb.
connection to
Yeah,
that.
there's like
Okay.
if you let your brain go, okay, I'm going from bigger to smaller
Right,
all the way,
right.
and then you end up with the flea.
Got it.
So it's like a flea on a feather, on a bird, bird on an egg in the nest on a twig, twig on a branch, branch on a limb, limb on a tree, tree in a hole, hole in the bog, bog down in the valley.
There it is.
I think that's the progression. But again, that one, I've never performed it myself, but I probably could if I didn't have a lot of distractions, because there is a logic to it.
Yeah.
And people ask me, "Why? How can you remember the words to all these songs?" It's like, well, they tell stories.
Right, and you remember a story.
I remember the story. If it's a song I don't do very often, I will sometimes blank on the first two words. But if somebody tells me those first two words, I can probably do the whole song, because it just starts the sequence.
It's a memory trace.
Yeah, I need to find where it's filed. It's filed under those two words. Oh, okay, there we go.
Think, right?
Yeah.
Of course.
This is a new song. Well, it's not really a new song, but it's a new song to me because I just learned it. It's a bit of a tongue twister, so please bear with me. There's a wee lass and her name is Mary Mac. Make no mistake, she's the girl I'm gonna attack. Lots of other fellows try to get up on her track, but I'm thinking that they'd have to get up early. Mary Mac's mother's making Mary Mac marry me. My mother's making me marry Mary Mac. Gonna marry for me, Mary to take care of me. We'll all be making Mary when I marry Mary Mac. This little lass, she's got a lot of class, got a lot of brass, and her father thinks I'm gas. I'd be a silly ass for her to let the matter pass. My mother says she shoots me rather fairly. Mary Mac's mother's making Mary Mac marry me. My mother's making me marry Mary Mac. Gonna marry for me, Mary to take care of me. We'll all be making Mary when I marry Mary Mac. Mary and her mother go an awful lot together. In fact, you hardly ever see the one without the other. People wonder whether it is Mary or her mother, or the both of them together that I'm courting. Mary Mac's mother's making Mary Mac marry me. My mother's making me marry Mary Mac. Gonna marry for me, Mary to take care of me. We'll all be making Mary when I marry Mary Mac. The wedding's on a Wednesday, everything's arranged. Soon her name will change to mine unless her mind has changed. With making the arrangements, I'm very much deranged. Marriage is an awful undertaking. Mary Mac's mother's making Mary Mac marry me. My mother's making me marry Mary Mac. Gonna marry for me, Mary to take care of me. I'll be making Mary when I marry Mary Mac. It's sure to be a grand affair, grander than a fair. Gonna be a coach and pair for every pair that's there. Dine upon the finest fare, I'm sure to get a share. If I don't, we'll be very much mistaken. Mary Mac's mother's making Mary Mac marry me. My mother's making me marry Mary Mac. Gonna marry for me, Mary to take care of me. I'll be making Mary when I marry Mary Mac. Yes, Mary Mac's mother's making Mary Mac marry me. My mother's making me marry Mary Mac. Gonna marry for me, Mary to take care of me. We'll all be making Mary when I marry Mary Mac.
Yeah, all of you guys, you have your own personalities and you gel so well together. I mean, the pub sings in the pirate ship. It's such a confined little space, but good acoustics.
Yep.
So where are you doing the pub sing now?
Glad you asked. We are basically, the Finalian song has merged with the pub sing.
Ah, okay.
And and that was one of the things that people were wondering, that because they went from a huge cast and like even like the Bacchanalians, I think, are the volunteer cast, and then the regular players. It's they're 50 people or more.
Yeah.
Now they have 9.
Wow.
Because of COVID, and they picked 9 stellar performers to do it. So that's good.
Well, that must have been rough to decide who could and could not come back.
Right. Well, Sterling, what they had for virtual Sterling, the main thing they said, okay, if you live in this city, we're not going to ask you to come up and do virtual Sterling, because that was the hotbed at the time.
Yeah.
And I think that was the only. They just asked a few people for that too, but. So the big question was finale. I mean, there's dance numbers and huge cast extravaganzas. And so what they decided was that the pub sing and the finale are the same thing now. And Gary and Doug and I are the MCs. And Thomas, of course, Mary Kate, Luke, Jules, and Arthur and Andy, the
Right.
two-barred party.
Right.
I think that's everybody. We're out in front of the throne, spread out. I mean, we had a rehearsal where Amanda, the main stage manager, came out with a tape measure was set at 6 feet. Said, okay, put a little X. That's where you stand. Which makes it a little tough for the hearing part. We have to really be conscious of everybody around us to make sure we don't get out of sync. And we can move some. I mean,
And you're all mic'd, so it's all going to be mixed. You can hear it.
Right. Well, yeah, they can hear better than we can. We're talking about maybe getting some monitors so we can hear. We can still move around a little bit. Like if I'm leading a song, I can step forward. But or if I'm announcing somebody, and now please welcome so-and-so, then I go back to my little X. And they come out and they take over the front bit and do that. And the cast is like there's a couple people in each balcony.
Right.
The queen, and then her two ladies are about 6 feet from her, and then the two people in the center balcony. So I think that's our 9. Yeah, I think it's 3, 6, 9. Yeah. We don't touch each other, and that's the only times we're allowed to take our masks off.
When you're actually performing.
When we're actually on the stage at our 6-foot spot, we take the mask off, we do the gig, and then so they're being really conscious of.
I like the mask with the PRF symbol.
Yeah, it's pretty nice.
Yeah.
I also have a couple really cool masks that my friend Mary Lee made. That are familiar with the Mexican Dia de los Muertos. Means Day of the Dead.
Day of the Dead. Yeah.
It's November 1st.
Okay.
It's the day after Halloween, and their motif is dancing skeletons and skeletons playing instruments.
Right. Okay. They're on the.
So that's what's on my masks.
Right. That's on the back of Scarborough, isn't it? It looks like a motif, Dance of the Dead.
TRF, Nuevo Chile.
Okay, Nuevo Chile.
Yeah.
I forgot which one.
Yeah, there's like a piano playing skeleton
right.
and a waiter skeleton with.
Right.
Yeah, that's a friend of ours did that mural. It's really cool. There was this stump just inside the front gate at what is now Bristol, and I think the gate is in a different place, so it's.
I remember it though, yeah.
And there was a stump that was, about 3 or 4 feet high, and at opening there was this huge tableau of, like I said, 3 hammer dulcimer players, great fiddlers, 30 musicians, and standing on the stump was Danny Lord and Arsène from Paris, Arsène Dupin, and they were back to back, and they would be turning a very slow circle, and in a circle around them were 15 to 20 or more jugglers, and they were juggling. And you know how they take the pins and you pass?
Yeah.
They would pass, and then they would catch from this one, and they would pass to that one.
Yeah.
And they would
There's
just
actually a
turn.
name for that. I don't know what it's called.
And
Wow.
it was just as far as spectacle goes.
Yeah.
It was phenomenal because there were just so many people juggling together.
That's when Danny did that mime show. Danny Lord used to do a mime show.
I think he was forced into it because of some of the things he said, but that's
Yeah. And Arsène and him were partners, but they would always fight over whose material was who was.
Well, Arsène fought with Johnny Fox over.
I was just recounting this with Aaron Bonk, who does the fire whips and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I just met him this year at Marion's
Nice guy.
wedding.
Seems like
Nice
a
guy.
nice
Seems
guy.
like a nice guy. A very nice man. But we were talking
Stealing material. I mean, yeah, but using material.
using using material about Danny Lord and about Arsène and about Johnny Fox and their fight. That's what I'm talking about. And there is this thing that they used to call the Water of India. Water of India is what Johnny called the Water of Life. It's a $25, $30 trick you can buy.
It's a face.
It's a trick. And you like take a glass, you drink it, you ding a bell, this pot empties, you go like this, you fill up the thing, you do this, you do it out, you ding it, it just keeps on, the water never ends.
Yeah, you pour it until it's done,
Right.
and you set it down, and then the next time you pick it up, You pour it until it's done.
Right, and you pour it till it's
It's-
done. So it's a water vinaigrette, but it's a dang. It's just a stupid little trick that makes the audience go, what? Because it's never focused on. It's just,
Right.
you just
It's
pour it,
just like-
dang, and do it and go out back on this thing. Well, he did it, Johnny did it, Arsène did it, Danny did it. They were at Arizona Renaissance Faire and fighting over it backstage. And Jose and I looked at each other and went, we should buy everybody this trick. We should take, and buy every variety show on a stage this trick. For 25, we'll spend hundreds of dollars right now. We'll just have every show do it to show you that it's not even your material that you're fighting over.
Well, Arsène would tell the story. I think he told it at Johnny Fox's memorial, which I had the great honor of being asked to sing at. Because Arsène would do that, and he's told the story about how he and Johnny had a deal where they could both do it, just not at the same festival. And if they were ever at a festival together, Arsène got to do it because it was his. And I think it was Colorado. They both get hired for Colorado, and he finds out that that Johnny's doing the trick, and so he. I don't know. He snuck on stage during one of the shows and took it away or something like that.
Johnny had a way of like really goofy. Like he's at Sterling, and some of these people are coming up to me and they're saying, he's kind of making fun of Miguel during a show. He's kind of implying that you learned this at gay bars, this sword song and stuff. I went, oh, really? Because Johnny froze at improv. Like if you walked up to him as a character on stage, he'd be like, "It's scripted," or he'd deal with an audience, and suddenly he's like, I hung out of the show, and I heard him say my name, and I went, "Yes, see," like that. He goes like that. I go, everybody. I taught him all he knows. The bar he talks about, he brought me. And walked away because he was like,
Oh, I miss Johnny.
yeah, I do too. What a spiritual person.
Yeah,
This is Johnny Fox.
Johnny Fox. Yeah.
Yeah, Bob mentioned him as well, so he figured in a lot of your exploits.
He's old time, right? I mean, he's like from the early '80s.
Ah,
There's on the Friends of Bristol or the unofficial Bristol Renaissance page, somebody's starting to publish, Bob Brinkman, some of the people are publishing like programs from the early 80s, which is really interesting.
So you started in '76, you said?
Yes, and I was in
Bob, I think, was '78.
Yes. And I think that was our last year of being jongleurs.
'78?
78, because 79 was an interim year. And then I started working with Jose, I think, in 80 or 81. I don't know. It might have been 79. Because I remember them being in...
I'm just a Jimmy come lately.
Yeah. Because he was in Sun Garden.
Yes, he was in Sun Garden.
Really pretty. They had a beautiful location. Really sweet music. Such a beautiful voice Bob had. He used it so seldom.
Well, that's why I got him in Burley Minstrels, was to make him sing more.
Yeah. I mean, gorgeous voice.
And Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he would hardly ever use it.
yeah. Well, he compared himself to Owen Fife, and he had nothing but good things to say about Owen. I never met him, saw him perform, but Bob was effusive in his praise of Owen's voice.
Bob didn't have the power in his voice that Owen did, but he had the sweetness and the the singing in tune and
Yeah, the singing tune, the technical
and the ability to blend, which Owen was never really. Owen was a soloist.
Bob was more of a baritone.
Yeah, Bob was more of a baritone. Owen was a tenor. I remember when I met Owen at Michigan Festival, and he had this really great bit. He would just play his vihuela, a little tiny guitar thing, and sing all these love songs. And he would carry around the vihuela and a pillow. And he would target couples walking around. He would stop a couple, and then he would put the pillow down and kneel on it and sing a love song and say, "Now think not that this is for me, but this is from your gentleman there." And he'd sing a love song, and then stand up and go find somebody else to do it to.
Ninguna Pascua es tan linda como la mía. Pascua mezclada de pena con alegría. Pascua mezclada de pena con alegría. Dicen que la Pascua viene por esa loma, candado de rama en rama, como paloma, candado de rama en rama, como paloma. También yo soy, señores, lindo shabaku cantor de Andes lindos, de Andes lindos, de Andes lindos, dai soy yo. De Andes lindos, de Andes lindos, de Andes lindos, dai soy yo.
I think his job was he made models for, like, prototype models, little small models for the automotive industry in Detroit.
Cars.
Cars, yeah, but you know, small, you know, models
Yeah.
that he would make that then would become a production model at some point.
Right.
But that
Scale,
was
yeah.
and that was back when you had to do that by hand, and he made a lot of money doing that apparently. And one year he decided, I'm going to sell that. Got out of it probably just at the right time before computers took over. But he sold the business for, I've heard various rumors of how much, but it was what in our book would be a lot of money. And he decided to sink that into his music career. And he, before I knew that that's what he had done, he came up to me. He had this little tape that he had that had some really pretty stuff on. And he came up to me and said, I want to redo this tape, but I want to have Cantiga be my backup band. And he said, how should I go about doing that? I said, well, I think you should pay them really well. And he said, no problem. And that's what he did. So he hired them. They became the New World Renaissance Band.
That's how it started.
And he basically replaced every song on that tape with that song with Cantiga playing as the backup, and he paid them really well,
And phenomenal.
and it was phenomenal. Yeah,
Yeah.
And
God, yeah.
and then I think he might have hired Max to produce one or two of them, and he had started his own record company and did advertising. He would like do 2 weekends at this show and 2 weekends at that show, and so he got a huge fan base that way.
Yeah, sure.
And it's like the old saying, what would you do if you won the lottery? And the answer for us is, well, I guess I'd keep playing music till the money runs out.
Then this is, of course, apocryphal, so it's probably not true. But he changed his name all the time because of his sales of that thing, his taxes with to change the spelling of his name
Yeah.
in contracts, and he
Fight.
Owain, Owen,
Right,
Owan,
right.
you know, all the different things, but also just to keep it like. But there are many Rennies who've done that.
I guess.
You know, I don't care.
I love at Sterling when they first introduce each other. They'll say, somebody will say, well, my name is Maureen and I play Lady so and so, and my name is Jake and I play the Gravedigger so and so. And they get to me and I go, I'm Jim Hancock and I play Jim Hancock. It's a lot easier to remember that way.
Yeah.
Now they do. I am My name is Marlene. I play the mayor's wife, and I use he.
Well, good. It's nice to get that out of the. I prefer not to guess.
Yeah, and it really helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How strange. Interesting times.
Well, there are only a couple of other names on the list that we haven't mentioned, and they're not at PA this year. Barbie Holder.
Oh,
You guys
Yeah.
go way back.
we go quite a ways back.
They go quite a ways back.
Yeah, because she was in one of your earlier videos, I think. She was in a pirate ship. She was
Oh, yeah.
sitting
She's in
inside-
Ice and Danger.
Yeah, the one
Inside-
they did
right,
at Sterling.
right.
Yeah, she's doing the whole pirate song there. Yeah.
Yes, and there's Gordon Boudreau stands laying down, banging a pot on his head. Good heavens!
That was
what
was
a
a thing he did.
transition there.
That
That
was
was in Lost Princess.
Right,
Yes, when he was playing Scratch.
right.
But his nose was bleeding too often, so he had to do something else.
He was hurting himself.
Even he had all this padding, he had all this stuff.
Yeah.
But you know this. You can if
Yeah.
you do this for 12 hours, your brain is gonna go, come on.
Yes, stop.
Stop.
Right.
And that's what
Yeah.
he was getting headaches and
God.
Yeah, he had a thing where
so
if you put a quarter in the pot, he would take the pan and hit himself.
Clong,
If you put
right.
$1, he'd hit himself 4 times.
and that's
And
why
he made a lot of money,
Yeah.
but he beat himself to death.
Yeah.
talk about panhandling.
And he's
Fortunately, he stopped.
But that's what the bit is, where
Yeah.
you throw all the money into his pot in
Right.
Lost Princess.
right,
And that was the scene where we had that was
and he curses you for doing it.
yeah. Jose
Right.
comes up and he goes, "Is there a scene for Gordy?" I'm like, my response to him was like, "Well, there is now." And I go away and try to figure out where to put it. And then I followed
And-
Gordy and I'm like, "Gordy, we're going to do a thing. We're going to be looking for." He goes, "What's your thing?" I'm like, "We're looking for the Holy Grail." He goes, "I can do a Holy Grail bit." I'm like, "Okay, tell me about it." So he told me about it a little bit. And we had to write it down. And then he's like, "Do I have to stick to the script?" And I went, "No, just the ins and outs."
Oh, no.
And I was running sound for those.
Yeah.
And that was one of the scenes where usually, do the whole sequence where you go, camera, slate, sound, and I would say rolling, and then, okay, action. And I would say rolling every time, but I just let it run.
Yeah, because we'd do cut and Gordy would go, yeah.
Gordy would just riff. I did that a few times doing recordings for the Hey Nanny Nunny. Same thing where they, and actually I think we ended up using a couple of
Remember
those
when
things.
we wrote their punchline? Remember
Yeah.
they had the thing and I was talking to go, God, if they had said this, and you're like, so we may have been imbibing. But you're like, I can do that. And we took their voices, we figured out the punchline we wanted to do. He found all the words Shannon had to say, he found all the words, and through his magic, he makes it sound like that's exactly what she said. And they listen, they're laughing, and at one point we went, so what line didn't you ever say? I remember us asking
Yeah.
them, like, what? And they couldn't tell, even
Oh,
themselves.
my.
Because it was the punch. I remember that. That was such a funny moment.
But there were times when they would, they would just riff, like musicians do, and that they would, and it would be just funnier than anything. And I say, well, that thing you said. And they go, oh, we don't remember. Well, here, let me listen to that. And they go, oh, we're using that in the show.
Yeah, but especially since it was an audio recording, it was like really valuable.
Yeah.
Was that a week? That took us a week or 2 weeks?
Less.
Less, yeah.
I think maybe a week.
Because they had to write songs and
Right.
Yeah.
Jerry Barrett, did he write?
Jerry wrote one of the songs,
One of the songs for
and
that.
so did the guy who plays bass, and
He was a boyfriend.
yeah, he was a boyfriend at the time. Back to Barbie. Barbie's a hammer dulcimer player and singer and songwriter, and I met her. Gosh, it might have been at the Florida Keys show, and we hit it off really well. Played together quite a bit for quite a while. Then she started getting other different gigs, but I still see her at Tampa every year.
Yeah.
And I'll still sit in with her when I can, and she can sometimes comes to a show of mine.
Well, let's do one that our good friend, our chef friend can play drums on.
Pretty much anything.
I can do the old Dancing Bear tune.
All right.
We used to play.
You gonna be dancing there for us?
No, it's called the Dancing Bear.
It's
Sort of
about a
how
dancing
you look
bear.
whenever you're dancing around like that, and your pretty hat and everything. You sing a Dancing Bear.
That's it.
Let's play with that, the Black Nag too.
All right.
Okay. You're the black bag.
I'm not going to touch that one.
You're a smart man.
Easy. Come on, one hand.
Aren't you gonna help me out, Jim?
Oh, I suppose. Thank you so much for listening. We are Jim Hancock and Friends. I'm Jim Hancock, and these are my friends, Chef Bob on the drum, and Barbie Holder on the hammered dulcimer.
Multi-talented, great presence, great fun to work with.
In the same vein, Gary Mazu. He's
Yeah.
been your friend for how long?
That was probably '87. I think was one first time I did any Florida shows. So that's probably when I first met
Because
him.
he's from down there along with Linda Cavey, right?
Well, he's from upstate New York, like way west. What do they call it? The Western Tier or something, the Southern Tier.
Ah,
Do you know where Lake Chautauqua is?
yeah, I think so.
It's almost to Buffalo. It's below
Right.
Buffalo.
Right, right.
It's almost to Fredonia. And his grandfather built a cabin, a log cabin on the lake, and Gary now owns it, and that's where he is. Well, right now he might be at his parents' house up there, but he'll spend the night at that cabin tonight.
Rolling home,
Rolling home,
rolling home,
rolling home,
rolling home across the sea.
rolling home to dear old England, rolling home, dear land to thee. Up aloft, amid the rigging, swiftly blows the favoring gale, strong as springtime in its blossom, filling out each bending sail, and the waves we leave behind us seem to murmur as they rise. We have tarried here to bear you to that land you dearly prize. Rolling home, rolling home, rolling home, rolling home, rolling home across the sea, rolling home to dear old England, rolling home, dear land to thee. Full 10,000 miles behind us, and 1,000 miles before. Ancient ocean waves to waft us to those well remembered shores. Newborn breezes swell to send us to our childhood's welcome skies, to the land of friendly faces and the glance of loving eyes. Rolling home, rolling home, rolling home, rolling home, rolling home across the sea, rolling home to dear old England, rolling home, dear land to thee. Rolling home, rolling home, rolling home, rolling home, rolling home across the sea, rolling home to dear old England, rolling home, dear land to thee.
I think he's the first one that hired me to come to this show.
Okay.
He was the director.
Right, he was the director of Pennsylvania.
And he's still, I think they might call him the artistic director at Colorado. But he also does directing at the Powell Crosley Theater which is, do you know where the Ringling Museum is down?
Yeah, in Florida.
Yeah, it's in Sarasota, Florida.
Yeah.
The, John and Mabel Ringling's old mansion and grounds. Just north of there was their friends, the Crosleys.
Ah.
And they have a slightly smaller grounds and mansion, but they hold they have a theater series where they'll either hold it on the back. Sometimes they for Poe or Dickens, like at Halloween, Christmas time, they'll do it inside the mansion.
Okay.
And but he's been directing that for.
I think Barbie told me one time she plays there. She mentioned that.
That could be, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Barbie also used to do a lot of, and probably still does, a lot of folk gigs here. She used to do these, what do they call, like first Friday or first night or something like that gigs in this area.
Yeah.
Where I remember doing one that was insanely cold. But it's like, say, on the first Friday of every month, they have a street festival at the downtown of this town. And we would be in a closed storefront playing. She'd be playing the hammer I'd be playing guitar, and then she might do the. She might have done Philadelphia Folk Festival, but there was other folk festivals in the area, like up in Reading or something like that, that she invited me to, and so she has like that vast repertoire of a lot of modern songs, and she does like Dolly Parton songs and all kinds of like she knows a lot of Jimmy Buffett songs, and a lot of the old ones before he got famous that are really, really good songs. They're all good songs, but she knows a lot of those, and so this is like I said earlier, I love hanging on around the curves. Throw me something, especially something in that genre, which is they're not incredibly complex, but they're complex enough to make me think.
And they're a little unusual.
Yeah.
Neat. Who did we miss? Duke Norseworthy.
Duke. Well, Duke is. I've known him since he was about 4 or 5. He started playing with me when he was about 5 or 6, and he plays the boran, the Irish drum. And I met him musically through my friend Cricket, who has since passed away. But I think he played with her since he was about 3. And he always had a good sense of rhythm and good talent. When he was young, he didn't like doing the waltzes and the slow songs. So he would just kind of sit on the stage and look a little bored. So I learned to if he was going to sit in, we were going to do mostly upbeat things unless somebody requested.
Okay.
And he's now in his mid-20s, I think, early to mid-20s. Lives in New York City, plays in a couple of bands. He's learning programming, things like that.
But his parents work at Sterling.
His parents have a shop at Sterling. His dad, actually both of them, but his dad founded what they call the Family of Faire, which is almost every festival has friends of Sterling, or friends of Scarborough, and Sterling has a group like that too. But they also have one called Family of Faire, and that group is smaller and even more dedicated. And they almost always wear costumes, even if they're patrons, and they also help a lot with like putting in gardens and things like that. A lot of the decoration and the yard, the grounds work gets handled by them as well. But Duke, like I said, has been playing with me every year since then, and has grown into a very nice young man. One story I do have about him that is noteworthy is, are you familiar with the Minstrels of Mayhem way back when?
A little.
It was Jerry Barry and Ty Billings were the Minstrels of Mayhem, and then they hired like Thomas and Brad and a few other people who played with them all years. But it started out as the two of them. They did a comedy show, which is very, very funny. And they also wrote songs together and singly. And I think it was Ty wrote, might have been both of them, might have been Jerry. But they wrote a song called Song for the Queen, or Sing for the Queen. I think it's called Song for the Queen. And it's a really sweet song. That I'll just go and say I set up the Queen at the time, which was Maria at Sterling, and I said, I've learned this new song, but it's so new that I need help. I still need some help with the words, so enlisting this young man to be my music stand, and I pinned the words to the back of his cloak, his coat there, or vest. And he was probably about 9 or 10. Might have been, I can't remember, somewhere in that age range. And there's a point in the song, it's talking about having the chance to sing for the Queen, and there's a point in the song where the singer says, and she won't know that I'm, and he lifts up his head and says, just 11 years old, and finishes the song singing for the Queen, and there was not a dry eye in the house.
Oh yeah.
It was so perfect. We set her up so well. She lost it too. If you can get the Queen to cry, you've done good.
Yeah, then you did it.
Come over the hills, my bonny Irish lass. Come over the hills to your darling. You choose the rose, love, and I'll make the vow. And I'll be your true love forever. Red is the rose that in yonder garden grows, and fair is the lily of the valley. Clear is the water that flows from the point, and my love is fairer than any.
By yon bonny banks and by yon bonny braes, where the sun shines bright on Loch Lomond, where me and my true love would ever want to go, on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond. You take the high road and I'll take the low road, and I'll be in Scotland for ye. But me and my true love will never meet again on the bonny, bonny banks of Loch Lomond.
'Twas down by Killarney's green woods that we strayed, where the moon and the stars, they were shining. The moon shone its rays o'er her locks of golden hair. She swore she'd be my love forever. Red is the rose that in yonder garden grows, fair is the lily of the valley. Clear is the water that flows from the point, and my love is fairer than any.
'Twas there that we parted in yon shady glen, on the steep, steep side of Lomond, where in purple hue the highland hills we viewed, and the moon is coming out in the gloaming. You take the high road and I'll take the low road, and I'll
It's not for the parting from my sister Kate, and it's not for the grief of my mother. It's all for the loss of my bonny Irish lass, that my heart is breaking forever. Red is the rose that in yonder garden grows, and fair is the lily of the valley. Clear is the water that flows from the Boyne, and my love is fairer than any.
High road
that in yonder garden grows, and there is the Scotland of the valley. Clear is the water that flows from the Boyne,
on the
my
bonny, bonny
love is fairer than any.
And your sensitivity to the little kids, the young ones coming up, is just remarkable.
Well, thanks.
You're supportive to them, you're attentive to them, you go to watch them perform. And just the fact you're there watching them gives them a boost, I'm sure. And yeah, it's just so nice to see the family. That
Well,
you're,
you know, I look at that as someone's going to have to take over for me at some point. And I really, because I went through the college, university system, and I recognize it for the way it can beat people down.
yeah.
And Duke went to a college where they basically said, you have to learn, you have to be a teacher. If you're going to study music in college, you have to become a teacher because nobody can make a living at this.
Oy.
And they make, he's just starting out.
Yeah.
Why tell him that he has no chance when it's, especially, and I said, you can tell him that you know somebody who didn't even finish college, who is building his own house and has his own car and lots of nice instruments, and it's all because I play music. So it's not true. Oh, that's what they said, that unless you're a superstar,
Right.
you can't make a living at music. It's like,
Right.
that's absolutely not true.
And all of the people who make those pronouncements are not successful themselves. They're
Right.
teachers.
Right.
So they're telling you what they know to be true.
My dad was a teacher after he got out of the military. And there's an old saying that says, those that can do and those that can't teach. And my dad would say, and those that can't teach teachers.
There you go.
And
Perfect.
he was an administrator for a while too, but then went back to teaching because
Yeah.
he liked it better.
Now, basically, over the years, I've learned that anybody who says you can't is probably wrong.
And probably, or tried it themselves,
Wasn't able to,
and they don't want anyone else to be successful because that makes them feel less.
yeah.
And that's way too bad. If I had been going, oh, that's horrible,
Sure.
you went a little off there, whatever, then he might have just put the instrument down and never continued. It reminds me of something that happened at one of the I think it was the Florida Keys Pirate Festival that we did. It was 2 weekends. One weekend was up in Marathon, which is can't remember the name of the key, but it's about a third of the way up the Keys. And the other weekend was in Key West. And this festival in Marathon was, to say it was underattended would be generous. Nobody came. But it was held in a hotel where these giant round hotel rooms on pilings. So we were underneath them doing stuff, and we're holding, I think it was pub sing or something, and we're singing, and this very, very young child comes up, walks up to me, and puts his hand on the guitar. And I just sensed, okay, I need to basically ignore the child and let it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And finished the song, and the parents came and got the child. And then they came down a little while later and said, our child is severely autistic. That is the most acknowledgement of another person he has ever done.
Wow.
And they were like effusive in their praise of what I'd done. And all I'd done is played my guitar and sang a song. But something about me not doing that,
right,
brushing him away or whatever, let him express something, which I guess that's the start. Is like get them to do something.
Right. You can make anything move once it's moving.
What's the Frogs into Princes, neuro-linguistic programming?
Yeah.
What was that guy's name?
Right. God, who wrote that? I remember reading that like 30 years ago.
But one of the stories in there was that he was really famous. Milton Erickson.
That's the hypnotherapist that
think
NLP was based on.
One of his his teaching stories was that he was known for getting catatonic people to respond. Means they're not catatonic anymore. Apparently his favorite trick was he would start pulling out leg hair, like plucking leg hairs about the ankle, start and move up about an inch every time. And he said, especially with women, he never got above the knee before they slapped his hand. Well, that's a response.
Yes, it is.
And then the other story about the Jesus lover thing was he gets called in. This woman is claiming she's Jesus' lover, and no matter what they do, they can't dissuade her of this notion. So he goes in and interviews her, and comes back out, and they're like, "Well," he said, "I need to have a young woman from your staff who has never been seen by this other woman at all." And went into a conference with her and trained her, and sent her in, and she starts talking to her, and at some point the woman claims to have been Jesus' lover, and the young woman from the staff says, "I know, he talks about you all the time, especially when we're up there," and just keeps going and going until the woman goes, "You're crazy."
I love those stories, yeah. It's just, you reach out and you touch the humanity. Where you don't intrude, you just put a hand out close enough for them to touch you back.
Right.
And that's the basis of every kind of treatment for thousands of years. You don't need it. Like my favorite phrase now is, credentials doth not competence make.
Yeah.
So I see it all the time in my profession, and what we're talking about the paper-trained people are not necessarily the most skilled artists or the best performers. I mean, I've loved talking with you about all of this. I mean, it's just, you're a terrific personality. You've got what we call depth.
You're sure that's just not
girth,
that?
too,
Girth,
right?
yeah. Girth and depth.
All right, so we could go on like this for a long time. Let's just wrap it up now. Thank you for your thoughtfulness
for asking.
and courtesy. And
it looks like we made it. You got some wading into that thing to do.
I have to delete some curse words, but otherwise it's a pleasure. Shake hands mentally.
Shake hands from 6 feet apart.
All right.